viewpoints and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Scarefest Television. Original broadcast date, January 24th, 2025, and it looks like we already have a buttload of people in the Facebook chat room and viewing on Instagram. Welcome, Instagram viewers. I hope you stick around because Instagram is a pain in the ass to set up, so I want to make it worth my while. Everybody, co-hosting tonight, the triumphant return of Chad Harland.
It's good to be back. I missed everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been you know what? There's something I used to say that it very well could be racist. I'm not going to say it. It's been a long time. I need to Google that to find out what the actual meaning of it is.
Thank you for erring on the side of caution with me here.
And our guest tonight coming in on short notice, the lovely and talented Stephanie Bingham, her picture is literally in front of me when I go to full screen. I'll have to fix that. Not that anybody cares about looking at me, Stephanie.
Well, thanks for having me.
I go ahead and pull it up, and then I can fix it here. Okay, let's get me. I just want to be able to see myself. Okay, there we go. Make you a little bit smaller. Stephanie, do you realize this is the first time that I have not dressed to the nines for your appearance on the show?
All I can think when I look at how you're dressed right now is that you're giving werewolf, and that is everything that's happening right now.
Flannel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's cold. It's
the flannel
cold.
and the beard. It's the whole thing. It's werewolf.
I've kept my winter beard. I do need to trim the bottom part a little bit here, but yeah, I've kept the beard neat. But my hair is doing like these weird wing things, so that's why I'm wearing a hat and I wear flannel. Because up until today, my office was cold as the proverbial witch's tit. Now I know that's going to offend somebody, but it's already out there. So what am I going to do?
Not much.
So anyway, and the only thing I'm missing from this outfit is one of Brandon Griffith's weird hats that he wears whenever we have a Zoom meeting. Anyway, I do want to tell everybody, yes, we do have 2 celebrity announcements at the bottom of the hour that you, I'm sure you're looking forward to. And maybe once you know who they are, you can help me figure out what that totally weird clue that Brandon posted was. I know who they are, and that clue literally means nothing to me. Nothing. Nada. Zero. So Stephanie, if I remember correctly, you talked about werewolves. God, you've got me going. You talked about vampires.
I did. It was the New England Vampire Panic.
And Nat and have already put a bug in your ear for werewolves this year. How'd it go? Did you have a good crowd? Good turnout?
We had a very good crowd for that one, and we had a real strange interaction in the middle of it where somebody knocked on the door to like the service hall behind the room.
Spooky.
Yeah, it was. The class didn't want me to answer it.
The only people I know that go back there are food service and the drag show. What time of no? You were too early in the day to have to worry about the drag show changing clothes back there.
Was not the drag show.
It
was some random person.
It was somebody. Quick story. For the film festival, they would not let me block the exit door on that end of the room. Okay. The screen could not be setting in front of that door, to that service hallway. And dumbass country bumpkin me said, well, if there's a fire, people do not run to the center of the building. And then they explained to me, well, there's other things that happen besides a fire. But when you said that, I was thinking, no, somebody thought, oh, fire, and went to the center of the building. But that's beside the point. So have you, I understand you've actually been thinking about topics for this year.
I have.
What do we have to
Got a
choose
couple
from?
that I've Well, one of them is a very local cryptid to my hometown that I've been digging into, and it just keeps getting stranger and stranger. And I'm working on an article about it right now, so it's just really, really strange, and I'm not sure what is going on with it. So, how much more do you want?
No, I mean, you don't have to give us spoilers. You don't have to give us spoilers.
I'll spoil all of it if you want it.
Well, I don't think it will hurt your attendance any.
No.
You can the fire marshal only lets us put so many people in your room anyway.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
There's this creature that was sort of roving around my home side of the state, essentially, starting out in like the 1920s, 1930s, and they called it the varmint. That point in time, the varmint, yeah. And at that point in time, they were describing it as something akin to like a werewolf, or sometimes just a very large wolf that was, taking down livestock and terrorizing people, yada, yada, yada.
Let me pause you. Why would anybody call something that is taking down livestock and is the size of a werewolf, i.e. big dog, human size, a varmint? Varmints are groundhogs. I think the upper limit on a varmint is like 2 foot.
So a large groundhog.
I'm going to Google that.
Varmint. Yeah.
I mean, a beaver. Okay, beaver's about 3 foot tall, I guess. And they're varmints.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how it got the name, but that is what they started calling it in the paper. And they were having like posses go out to try and hunt down the creature. And like I've talked to my grandfather about it, and he remembers them shooting it and sort of stringing it up between 2 trees, and it being this really, really, really big wolf. Which, fine, we don't have wolves, but one weird animal out of place, not a big deal. But then 20 years later, they started having weird occurrences again, markings on trees, weird giant dog footprints, animals going missing again, strange things like that, just all over again. And they went out again. They formed the Varmint Hunters Club. Like there was an actual club with cards.
See,
to go out and try and hunt down this creature.
when they buy T-shirts that say that, everybody's going to assume groundhogs and squirrels.
Well, yes, but it's the 1950s, so not T-shirts quite yet.
Oh.
But you have all these people searching for it, and then it just disappears until the 70s and the 80s when it appears again. But this time they're describing it as a Bigfoot, fully
dog
a Bigfoot.
Man. Totally dog man.
Right? But
the
then
only cryptid that fucking terrifies me, by the way.
Right? Horrible. And there's one of those supposed to be next to where I work, which makes night shifts terrifying. But the very last sort of sighting of the varmint happened at this cave in a like mining area. And it was in this coal slurry, and they found these 3-toed footprints. And this is right next to Hopkinsville, and it's giving goblin at that point. So this set of creature sightings just literally went from Dogman to Bigfoot to who knows what.
Sounds to me like you people in your area are mixing up their cryptids. Chad, over to you.
I agree.
Stephanie, thank you for being here tonight. It's always a pleasure. You're one of my favorite guests by far, because you have such a wealth of knowledge. Every time you come, we throw you curveballs all night, and you knock them out of the park. So, so you're talking about your hometown, Hopkinsville, or that area. You didn't say there, but you said nearby.
Not quite. Pretty close though.
So you're looking into the varmint. Have you done any research just to kind of talk about broader ideas? Have you done any research on the goblins?
On the goblins? On my friends here? Yeah. Absolutely. I grew up going down to Kelly, and my parents were big fans, or my mom specifically is a big fan of like the weird, and we would always go down to Kelly to see where the goblins landed, and go down to Hopkinsville to the museum to see the museum exhibits about the goblins, and that led into Edgar Cayce. But really, like, the goblin thing is really strange because it backs up to the Green Claw sighting that happened the day before the goblin attacks did, right in Henderson. And I live right between Kelly and Henderson, which not great, but and people don't realize how many sightings there have been in that area of those. And I started counting just reptilian cryptids in the Ohio Valley, and I stopped counting at like 12 or 13 when I started looking through old historic reports of them. So we've got dozens of them in various different types. So many to choose from.
Well, you also, as you get towards that end of the state, you get into the dogman of the land between the lakes in that area too. Which, like Wes said, that's terrifying, the stories that come out of that.
That is the cryptid you don't want to meet in the dark alley.
Exactly. Kind of getting back on your presentation this year, I'm curious, because I really wanted to attend that, but didn't get down there. We talked a lot during last time you were on the show about what topics you were going to cover and some of the stories. Mm-hmm. Were there any interesting questions that came from the audience on that kind of led to further discussion?
I think the two things that really surprised me is I pulled two vampire stories to sort of show the others at the time in the US. And I had someone in my group from each location. Like these are like, one was from Virginia and one I think was from Idaho, Iowa, maybe one of the I states, something like that. One of those westerny places. And I had somebody from both of those places there, and they were telling me the versions that they grew up with. And it's really interesting to hear how the story evolves over time, because they had, the little local details that didn't make it into the papers of the time. So just that little bit of extra, they never found the body, but we still saw sightings of him. People still talk about seeing this vampire to today. So it's still the boogeyman of the town. So it was really interesting to really get that hands-on.
It's amazing the audience that comes now. That Scarefest is so large. We have people from everywhere, so you never know who you're going to be able to share stories and talk to.
Huge. Like today, or you're walking around the festival was just insane.
Yeah. We're looking forward to another big one this year.
Yeah. It should be good.
We're up to our first break, so I'm going to go ahead and toss to that, and we'll be right back with Stephanie Bingham.
Are you a fan of horror movies, books, comics, music, and collectibles? Roomorg magazine is for you. Subscribe today to receive 6 or 12 print issues annually and join me, executive editor Andrea Subasati, on an ongoing journey through the horror genre of the past, present, and future. Plus, get access to unmissable special editions such as A Century of Witches, 50 Years of Gore Cinema, British horror movies, and so much more. Roomorg, the world's premier horror and culture and entertainment magazine since 1997. Accept no substitute.
Arr! No, there. We had a little CGI just for your episode with cryptids and everything. That's.
Thank you so much. That's terrifying.
That's like the coolest thing I ever bought. It's like, okay. Anyway, okay. So I am fascinated with. Okay, from what you've gathered, do you think that people? Okay. Let me start over. Because of the drone sightings in New Jersey, people have started reporting drone sightings and things like that, UFOs, all over the country. My theory is that because New Jersey had a plethora of drone sightings, everybody else started looking up and now they notice them. So I'm wondering if the reason that people aren't attributing the varmint, the critter, whatever the hell it was, to these 3 different sets of viewings, descriptions, is they started looking and now they found out, oh, fuck, there's a Bigfoot. Oh, hell, there's a goblin running around. What do you think?
I think that they are looking for explanations for 3 different phenomena, and they are just using the same name because they're comfortable with it. Like they took care of the varmint once, so maybe calling it the same thing means they can do it again. Like I think it was just that sort of, local history. We know what that is. We know how to take care of it. So what happens when it stands on 2 legs?
Yeah. Everybody now. Okay, I kind of went inside baseball here. If those are, because we have a lot of people that don't know paranormal and cryptids from home the ground, they come in the chat room. So I will quickly explain. Dogman is basically a werewolf. Now, when they first started talking about it, the North American Dogman Association, they said, no, it's not a werewolf. And then all the descriptions came back. It's wearing a goddamn t-shirt. So, yeah, a lot of the eyewitness descriptions had clothing. And so I had to go, dude, that's a werewolf. And then they kind of opened up to that idea more. But yeah, it is the most terrifying of cryptids because Bigfoot eats like vegetables, leaves and vegetables. This thing has purportedly killed people down in way western Kentucky.
OBL.
Yeah. So
threw him up in a tree after he ate him too.
Well, I mean, I've done worse. So really though, you should be careful. You talked about being a little more. Now, is that just you stroking my ego, the big hairy guy on TV, or are you starting to think about this? Have this in the back of your mind when you have night shift, go to work, whatever?
Oh no, legitimately, there have been sightings where I work. The Beast of Bullitt County is a cryptid in the area that's been around for quite some time. There was an early idea that it may have been a werewolf associated with the distillery, and that is simply not what was going on. I've looked into that top to bottom. That's not it. But across the road, there is this big forest, and it goes for miles and miles and miles. And there have been many, many reports of dogmen or werewolves roaming this area and being sighted by people driving past, hiking, doing all sorts of things out in those woods, hearing things they shouldn't be hearing, seeing things they shouldn't be seeing. Like it's a legitimate thing. And then of course they're coming out with, oh, we have a bear. So be aware that there's a bear in the area. And I thought the timing of the bear showing up was very interesting. Uh-huh. Yep.
Didn't mean to frighten you there, young lady. Now let's take off what you know. Let's push that aside a moment. And everybody, the reason I have to do that with her, she is the smartest lady in the room anywhere she goes. I would say you're the smartest person in the room, but I am a male chauvinist, and I can't get away from that. So smartest lady in the room. But let's push your intellect, your excessive intellect aside. What do you believe about the Dogman? Do you believe it's just a cryptid, or do you think there's something really supernatural about it?
I think we've had stories of werewolves for long enough that there is something true in it. It's a cross-cultural thing that you can find in cultures all over. So I think that there has to be something legitimate behind it. I don't think every incident could be a mangy bear. I don't think there are enough mangy bears walking around attacking people to account for all the sightings. And that's what I always hear. Oh, it was just a bear. You're just misidentifying a bear. I don't think that that's always the case. I'm not sure that I believe that it is a flesh and blood creature. I think I would have to, if it's going to be that, you would have found a body by now. It almost has to be something spiritual, something ghostly, something, I don't want to say demonic, but inhuman, if you will.
Well, now I am frightened because I take you as the expert on all this stuff. Okay, Chad, I'm gonna go downstairs and pee my pants now.
Well, to be fair though, it is cold out. I put a jacket on my dog when I let it out too. So just wearing clothes doesn't mean it's not a
my cat's wearing a jacket right now.
Exactly. So, I mean, they may just be somebody really nice, making sure the dog man's warm. It may not be a werewolf. Is there any connection through your research and knowledge between Dogman, Wendigo, Skinwalkers, all the Native American legends that are maybe related? How do you come down on that, and what has your research shown?
So I don't know a whole ton about skinwalkers specifically. I know that they are a shape-shifting sort of shaman-associated cryptid that lives in the Southwest. So if you're seeing something out there, Possibly. If you are walking through the Appalachian Mountains, probably not. Wendigos, frozen heart of the north, they are the embodiment of cold and hunger, and traditionally not seen with the antlers that we sort of think of them as today, but generally being sort of large, emaciated creatures that would eat their own lips. I really don't see a lot of crossover aesthetically between a Wendigo and a dogman. But if you talk about hunger and appetite, you could absolutely make the case that you're talking about something in the same family tree.
Again, petrifying, but there's so many native there's so many native legends and lore that touch on these. Like you said, is the lore and the history crosses so many cultures and has been part of this continent long before we got here. And it's interesting to go back and see what because like you said, legend and lore gets changed through time. So it always interested me to look back and see if there is a common ancestry or root in those stories that have just been altered by culture and time.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that people don't give enough credit to are the entities that were here first. A lot of the calls that I get around here for paranormal investigations or something strange going on at the house is tied to the things that were here first, and just weird occurrences that, they were here first, it's their place, and they're just letting you know it, that, and just the variety of them, just lots of strange things.
And certainly my roots are in Eastern Kentucky, so there's always lore in that area of, like you said, the things that were here before, the elementals, the various critters and creatures.
Yes, and the variety of them, especially in Eastern Kentucky, gets really, really strange, because they have everything from the little will-o'-the-wisp, the little lights that draw you, to your doom or show that someone's soul is left, to the things that you can't hear but leave the backwards hoof prints, to the things that jump on the back of your horse as you ride past. Like, just anything you can think of happens in those mountains.
And of course, that's a largely Scotch and Irish ancestry, and it's interesting to see how those stories are slightly different, but you can see a relation to the legends of those countries.
Absolutely. The Fae, when you start looking specifically at puckwudgies and things of that nature in Northern American history, and you look at sort of some of the trickster Fae from Scots-Irish areas in Europe, it's really shocking how closely those will align. And then when you start getting into like the Fae legends in US and how those align up with alien abduction stories today, like the Fae abductions over there, like it's terrifying how long we've had these same stories. And it really, to my mind, lends credence to them, because if we've always had these occurrences, what started them and why do they still exist today?
One that always stood out to me, and I may have my cryptids and elementals confused, but brownies and leprechauns, the stories are very similar on those, if I'm not mistaken.
Brownies generally a little more helpful to humans, like the humans or the household that they are associated with or they like. Yes, very much so. Leprechauns, from my understanding, sometimes, but they can be a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, a lot of the same sort of ideologies there.
Okay, and we got just a few minutes left before we go to our bottom of the hour break, but I want to bring up another maybe cryptid, maybe mistaken identity. There has been my entire life spottings of large black cats in Eastern Kentucky. Yes. Meanwhile, Fish and Wildlife says there. Meanwhile, Fish and Wildlife says there are no black cats in Kentucky. Have you looked at that? Are you familiar with those legends and lore? And what do you think it may be?
I am. I really love those stories. I hope that they are true. Like, that is my gold star animal. I want to see that. That is the cryptid I want to meet in the dark alley. But what I always come back to is when I was in middle school, Fish and Wildlife came to our middle school and told us that we had no poisonous snakes and no beavers in the state of Kentucky. So I don't believe Fish and Wildlife at all when they tell me an animal is not here. And then there's cave lions. That's a fun answer as well.
Yeah. we're pretty close to our bottom of the hour break, so I'm going to go ahead and toss to that, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Technically not going anywhere. Okay, everyone, we're getting ready to do our celebrity announcements. Now, as those of you on Facebook have noticed, Brandon, go ahead and show that, posted a hint for tonight's guest. When I saw this and I had the answer, I literally had no idea what this reference was. Now, was that him that messaged you or someone else?
No, that was Jake.
Oh.
Jake is all knowing.
Jake freaking Godbold somehow deciphered this, and I still don't totally get it. But anyway, if anybody in the chat room would like to explain this to me after I make the announcement, feel free to post that in the chat room. Okay. Our first announcement.
You've jacked up my announcements.
Oh, no, I haven't. They're right here. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Okay. Our first announcement of the evening is Mr. Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs of course, Reanimator fame, The Frighteners, Would You Rather, great guest returning to Scarefest, Jeffrey Combs, and this Brandon was eating, I think he has finally gotten hold of some of the pot gummies that are semi-legal now in Kentucky, because there is no way a sober human could have sat down and made the tenuous connections that he made to come up with that graphic. Linnea Quigley is coming back. I love this woman. The Return of the Living Dead, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Night of the Demons, Graduation Day. Lovely, lovely woman, and lots of fun to be around. Linnea Quigley is our second celebrity announcement of the evening. Hey, are you keeping track? Are you playing the home version? February 1st, all tickets go on sale 7 p.m., including available VIP passes. Returning vendor registration will also open that day. Film festival submissions will begin. This all happens February 1st, which is like, what, a week from now? Yep. It's right around the corner. Tickets go on sale just any moment now. Do want to remind everybody that the Central Kentucky Mystical Market has moved 1165 Center Parkway. Look them up on Facebook. Their next upcoming date is February 15th and 16th. February 15th and 16th, 1165. Find them on Facebook. Central KY Mystical Market. Look them up and come on down and find them at their new location. And a quick plug. It's still a ways off, but don't forget the Ravens Ball. Tickets are scheduled to go on sale February 15th. The Nevermore, the Raven Ball. Join us for a night of mystery and intrigue as we celebrate all things Edgar Allan Poe. Put on your best Gothic attire and dance the night away to hauntingly beautiful music. The event will take place on Saturday, September 6, 2025, starting at 8 p.m. at an undisclosed location, unless you go on the ticket page, and then it actually does apparently disclose it. But that's what's in my script that she gave me. Get ready for a night of darkness and elegance that you won't soon forget. Don't miss out on this unforgettable evening. She absolutely rocked the what was the one called? Forest. Something about Forest.
Enchanted Forest.
Enchanted Forest. That was it. Thank you, Chad. She absolutely rocked it. I look forward to her doing equally well on this, and I own much more black clothing than I do anything that has to do with Enchanted Forest. So, I will be able to dress up for this one too. Back to our guest, Stephanie Bingham. Stephanie, did you get that reference on the little hint thing that Brandon stuck out there?
Oh,
Do you
I have
watch
no
horror
idea
movies?
how that works. Some,
What's your favorite?
probably Skeleton Key.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a horror. It's a thriller, paranormal thriller.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
But
more
still,
of my
I like
line,
that movie.
so.
I like that movie. Oh, by the way, in your answer to Chad's last line of questioning, what in the actual fuck, Stephanie? Really? Okay, just gonna throw that out there. By the way, Chad, brownies, you can tell
Yes.
the difference because brownies sell cookies. Now, I'm going to completely throw you a curveball here, as I am oft to do.
Okay.
Have you been keeping up with the whole? There is a UFO in Pensacola, Florida, at the naval base down there, cloaked and waiting to reveal itself to the rest of us. Have you been keeping up with that little controversy?
I find UFOs terrifying. So, no.
Okay. Now, just to fill you in for once in my life,
Yes.
they're saying that people like you that have such a high vibration that you can like shatter glass, you would be able to see it if you were down there. They're revealing themselves.
That is a terrifying thought.
Why?
Because, like, cryptids, things that are here, you kind of have an idea how they work, what their energy's like, what's going on. If it comes from elsewhere, you don't know. Now, if we're talking about them being fae, sure. But the idea of them being a truly extraterrestrial creature that is here and waiting and trying to make themselves known to certain people first, why? Why are they doing that?
Because they like you better. That's the only thing I can tell you. Okay. To go way inside baseball on this one, apparently the way they cloak and the whole thing behind them has to do with vibration, which we accept in the paranormal field to a great degree. You know, lower your vibration, you suck. In higher vibrations, you can do whatever. Okay, so I don't even know if they're doing it on purpose. It might have just been an observation. In other words, hey, just to let you know, if you have a high vibration, you might notice this first. But so you're not on TikTok, are you? Because this is all over freaking TikTok. I am,
but that is not the side of TikTok I'm on. I'm on like not deer TikTok right now.
On what?
Not deer? Have you not heard about the not deer?
No.
Yeah, the not deer?
No.
So the not deer is a cryptid that is apparently running around everywhere, but started off in Appalachia that looks like a deer until you look too long, and then it starts looking like other things and is going to try and eat you, apparently.
When you said that, I just thought it was another one of your cop-out names for a cryptid, like the varmint. Well, it's not a deer. No. We'll call it not deer.
Not a deer.
So anyway, but yeah, that's the whole thing now. They there's and of course the only photographic evidence would make Bigfoot jealous. It's like really blurry, foggy photos of could be something. It's more like a water spot on the lens. That being said, if my alien overlords come in, you know, I'm not afraid of aliens any more than I am anything else.
I will let you take the aliens, and I will take any other entity you'd like.
I will trade you aliens for Dogman in a heartbeat.
Deal.
Because no aliens have, through any of their psychic communication to the people on TikTok or anywhere else that I'm aware of, have said, oh, by the way, we want to eat you. That's just something that doesn't come up.
That's good.
Well, see, werewolves.
I'll still take Dogman.
Dogman totally eat you, Chad.
I don't know. I'd rather be eaten than probed, but you're on your own with that, Wes.
No.
$20 is $20.
Out of everything you've researched and studied, what do you find to be the weirdest story in this area? Either cryptid, paranormal. Because I know you have probably the widest knowledge base of anybody I've talked to, especially on local lores and legends in Kentucky and in this area. What do you find most, I will say most interesting, but I know that shifts every time you shift to a new subject matter. But what's the one that just sticks with you as one of the weirder stories?
The one that always comes to mind for me is the old thing that hollers. It's a Appalachian story that every time I think about Appalachian cryptids or ghost stories, it's always the one that I'm like, what was going on here? It's this idea that there is this thing that walks through and near cemeteries. Like, it has it looks sort of like a horse, and its feet are backwards, and you're not supposed to look at it, but it will scream and it will run like through the little areas there, past the cemeteries, past the places you aren't supposed to be, and it'll apparently like trample you, but it screams constantly. Why do we have backward-footed horse creatures running through
Let's
the
call it
mountains?
not a horse.
Why? It is not a horse. It is absolutely not a horse.
I have not heard that legend, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, that one came to me from somebody who grew up with that legend, and it actually came from the little holler that he grew up in. And they used to have these things happen, and they would go out in the morning to look, and they would find, like, they saw the creature go this way, and they would find the footprints going this way. And it was, that makes it worse for me to know somebody who can tell you that story. And you know, when you hear people giving you their stories and you're like, yeah, huh? And then there's people that believe what they saw. And this man full on believed exactly what he was saying. He didn't know what it was, but he was still scared years later. So it's one of those ones where you're just like, ooh, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's like I said, that's one I haven't heard, and I spent a little bit of time in cemeteries in eastern Kentucky and at
all
night.
in legal means there.
Mostly family cemeteries. I mean, when else are you going to go up and clean the graves? It's hot in the daytime.
Absolutely. And there's snakes.
Yeah. One thing I want to revisit that you brought up on a previous show.
Okay.
And Wes and I have both revisited that story with other guests over the years, and nobody else has heard it. Can you share with us again the train that hit the UFO?
The train that hit the UFO, that's another weird, like, Kentucky mystery. It's not really truly Eastern Kentucky, but it's like southeasterny Kentucky. It was a CSX train, and there are multiple reports of this thing. You have to go looking for it to find them. But I heard it from multiple places, and I found it in a couple of books. So at least some people believe it happened. There was a train that was going across a bridged area that had water, and they saw a light coming towards them, just something, and they thought it might have been a searchlight, a helicopter, something at first. They weren't really sure. And so they're going, it's a train, doesn't really stop well, and this light ends up sort of bouncing off of the front of the train and sort of bouncing along the back of it. It's a train, they can't really do much. So this thing at some point apparently freezes in a spot and then does the normal UFO zig, 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 zig. And after it hits them, they can't really do anything. They go on, and when they reach their destination, or the first place they can stop, they notice several large dents and some major damage on some of the carrier cars back in the back of the train. And it's one of these ones where they had some interesting physical evidence, and there were reports made about that evidence, but nobody wanted to say that it was a UFO. So they're all like, what could we have possibly hit if it wasn't a UFO? And the options there would be a helicopter, and that's really not good, but no helicopters were missing, no planes, you know, no drones, nothing like that, because a drone should not be leaving, you know, massive dents in a coal car. So it's one of these things where nobody has a good explanation, and the company that had the train that got hit doesn't want to talk about it because that's really bad press, and they already have enough of that, so they don't need to get any more.
They just called it not a train.
It is not a UFO. Not a helicopter.
Ever since you shared that, I've been fascinated by that. I've done a little bit of research on it too, and like I said, I found a few random reports here and there, but it amazes me that is not a more widely known story.
Right?
And it was, if I recall correctly, I found it in local papers talking about it. So I'm not sure how that didn't go.
You did.
So thank you for sharing that again. Like I said, that's one of my favorite stories you've shared, and one of the topics that will be continuing to look into, because I find that fascinating that it's so well documented that at least something happened, and not a lot of explanation as to what it was.
Absolutely. That one always baffles me. Kentucky and our UFOs, one shot down a plane and the other one hit a train. Like, we're not doing good here.
and one attacked a family. So
That too.
yeah. We're coming up on our last break, so I'm going to go ahead and toss over, and we'll be right back.
Hey, Scarefest, this is Joe Lewis at Bonehead Weekly with this week's review. Over 3 weeks, I watched this particular movie. This particular movie that's well written, well directed, excellently acted, decent ending, that I'm having a hard time recommending, but I am going to recommend it. And the reason I'm having a hard time recommending it is because I would never do anything that these people do. The movie is 2024 Speak No Evil, starring the wonderful James McAvoy as the bad guy that you can pick up clearly from the trailer. Basically what it is it's this couple, American couple, they've moved to England for someone's job, for the husband's job. He's lost his job. She's unhappy. You come to find out that they've kind of had some issues outside the marriage she has. He found out about it. They're trying to work through the problems. They have a young daughter. They meet this other younger couple right around the same age with a young son on a weekend holiday. They hit it off. Then later they're like, oh, come over to the countryside, hang out. And then all goes to pot. Here's my problem with this. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. Actually, I'm really, really an extrovert. You may not have known this. But to go stay with somebody somewhere, if I know you, great. I may be doing something in a few weeks. If I know somebody, great. If I don't go. So when I see these, you don't realize that you're in someone else's house and they're acting weird, and the car's out front, why don't you go get in the car and go, this was lovely, but the kid's got a case of diarrhea, or my heart just exploded, I'm leaving. Why don't they ever do this? That's what drives me crazy about these movies. It's a really well-acted movie, and the performances are so good. James McAvoy is so good. Everyone in this movie is so good. But why are they there? Why don't they leave? And there's so many instances where they could have just left and got out of this nonsense, where they wouldn't be in the middle of this. So many instances where they could do this, and they didn't execute that. If you serve me peas at your house, I will find a reason to leave, much less be all crazy. I don't even need that. I don't need that. I just don't like peas. And I'll be like, oh, thank you so much. Diarrhea. No, I'm serious. So I'm exaggerating a little bit. Why in these movies do these people stay around when there's so many red flags? I'm never going to go spend the weekend with somebody that I don't know that well at their house in the countryside. Just not going to happen. Now, if it's a good friend, probably. Brandon Griffith, maybe. Other people, Wes and Anita eat people. Should you see Speak No Evil, that's on right now, Peacock? It's a really well-made movie, so I can recommend it for that. I just hate these movies because they make no sense to me. I can't imagine any scenario where I would let this happen to me. And these characters make so many, because they have to keep the plot going for 90 minutes, so many stupid decisions. Well, why don't you just leave? Or, look, the air's out of this tire. You're going to let the guy just go ahead and change? Oh, God. Awkward taking there's so many. Watch this movie and tell me there's not so many red flags. Why do they bother staying? These types of movies where you go somewhere and the family's crazy and you don't leave, or you're even there to begin with, make no sense to me. This is not going to happen. Well, I've said this, and now in the next 3 weeks, somebody's going to be like, hey, you want to come over? And blah, 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 blah. We have all kinds of gummies and chocolate. And then I'll be stuck and murdered. But I don't think anybody really wants to murder me. Why would they bother? I'm dead on the inside anyway. You always complain about, I like the ending. There is a catharsis to the ending. I'm not giving too much away, but the little boy who's clearly, if you've seen the trailer, he's not there of his own volition. There's some catharsis. We get some of this out. But the dad's such a pansy, and then they always make the dad a pansy for some reason. The lady is the strong one. This is how I don't understand these movies. I really don't. I have no understanding. This particular type of genre film where you go stay, where the dad's a pansy and they're going through something and yada, 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 and I got to work through and find their manhood. You want to watch a movie about a guy trying to find his manhood, defending his family. Straw Dogs, the original Peckinpah one with Dustin Hoffman. Check out Speak No Evil on Paramount. Pretty good. This wouldn't happen to me. So, and it's a remake of a Danish-Dutch film as well. Just don't go stay at a stranger's house for the weekend. Just don't, unless they have gummies and chocolate. In which case, Godspeed.
Well, Well, I'm going on the record right now. I love peas. So, just saying it.
Controversial stance.
Noted.
Oh, and by the way, Chad, okay, back to the aliens. They don't intend on probing anyone. They're here to guide us to the next level of enlightenment.
You
Okay.
sure about that?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure, but that's what they say. I mean, through people, through psychics. Yeah, you make a smirk, little Miss Psychic. I figured you really had the inside track on this.
That's why they scare me.
Have you asked any of your people?
Yes, that's why they scare me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm intrigued now.
When the things here don't know what to say, that always makes me nervous. When you ask them about them and the things that I'm talking to are like, I'm not sure what that is, that makes me nervous.
Well, ask him about the thing in Pensacola. Specifically, location.
The thing in Pensacola, absolutely.
thing in
will
Pensacola.
do. USO,
The-
UFO.
Yeah, the cloaked UFO in Pensacola. So
I will do that. I will let you know.
please. Okay. So we've made fun. Okay. We've made fun of every cryptid in the area so far. Including one that is not a horse, not a deer, and apparently
Right?
bigger than the average varmint.
Yes.
So
You've got them all. Can I tell you
so
about the
I
one that
got
was at the
nothing
local
left.
art museum?
What's that?
There was one at the art museum that surprised me the other day.
Wait. There was a cryptid at the art museum. What?
There was. I'm not sure how intentional it was, but there was. I went there with my mother for my birthday recently, and I walked into the main room, and there was a child in a red hoodie sitting on a chair leaning forward. It was a sculpture with black eyes. And of course, the night before, I've been doing black-eyed kid research. And this sculpture, when you read about it, they're like, it's talking about the loss of innocence and how there's nothing that's here. And I'm like, this is exactly black-eyed kid description, but nothing in the sculpture, and the artist doesn't reference it on any of their things. So I'm like, what is the crossover here between black-eyed kids? Why are they coming up so often? And why is there one sitting in the local art museum?
Are they coming up again? I haven't heard many news stories for a while. Are they starting to pop back up on the scene?
I've been getting a lot of synchronicities, and I've been getting a lot of reports of people with synchronicities in and around them, dreams of them, things of that nature. I haven't heard any firsthand reports of them showing up their doors yet, but when people start reporting those dreams, I always get a little nervous and start looking for those things to pop off again. And just seeing that in the art museum really makes me wonder if we're putting that sort of energy towards these things again, if we're going to start getting those rash of sightings like we had in the early 2000s.
Well, currently they're all in the UFO in Pensacola, but when that opens up and lets them
Could be
out, they're all going to
related.
show up.
Could be related, Chad.
I
Because-
would be surprised.
Because okay, when you talk UFOs, then you get to the Men in Black. That's often
Yes, but
followed.
what
They
kind of Men in
also
Black?
not only alien, but if you report black-eyed kids, they also show up for that.
Yep, they do.
So,
But are we getting the alien Men in Black like we're with Mothman, or are we getting the like modern disinformation agent Men in Black? Are we getting which ones?
I didn't even know there was a difference.
I was going to say, is there a
Yeah.
How
difference?
much I know.
There is. The original ones were supposed to be wearing makeup with very strange faces, almost reminiscent of Indrid Cold.
Right.
And they wore the black suits and went around. But the modern ones are thought to be of this earth, where the original ones seem to be a little less.
They're just better at makeup now.
I mean, that's also a possibility I had not considered. I kind of love
See,
that, though.
That's why I'm here for you, dear.
Thank you so
Word.
much.
To give
So many
you
reports,
options.
they had to start subcontracting.
Yes, that sounds right. That sounds exactly right.
Well, seriously, we had somebody on here one time talking about UFOs. Heck, it might, I don't remember who it was. But anyway, and they pointed to how all this is just a reflection of society, because back in the 50s, they were all flying saucers. And now they're oblong, pointy things. And they look different now. And I'm like, a 1982 Buick looks a whole lot different from a 1950 Buick. They probably just updated.
New models.
Yeah, new models. And probably the same thing.
I mean,
with
that does make a lot of sense.
I mean,
Or
look at how
different aliens.
look at the how much better a latex mask is now versus 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
See?
And if we think that the phenomena is evolving, that is terrifying, because why do they feel the need to evolve? Why do they need to change? What's their goal now?
Why did we have the need to evolve?
Yeah, we got bored.
Well, maybe they did too. Seriously. The
Terrified.
psychics are saying this is nothing to worry about. They're excited about it, a bunch of them are. They're just like, ooh, they're communicating with me and telling me to write it down, and then I let them read it to make sure I got it right. Because apparently
So
they
we're
cannot
doing
text.
channeled writing of aliens.
Yeah, pretty
So
much.
we're going back to the spiritualist channeled writings where they used to channel ascended masters. So it's circling all back through again.
Okay, now sometimes you're just showing off.
No, that was my master's thesis.
Yeah, well, okay. Since it was your master's thesis. So, okay, if that was your master's thesis, the next question is, what did your college professors think about you?
I chose the topic that I chose because the professor that I had made me very mad, and he told me that I could not do it. So I did it, and I graduated with top honors. So he hated it.
Well, you probably made him feel as stupid as you usually do me.
Well, tried not to.
See, I'm not saying you try to make. I described. I'm going to start putting you in that category of you talk down to me just enough not to insult me, but just enough that I know you're smarter than I am.
It's unintentional, I promise. For him, it was not.
So, okay. So, getting back to where this whole conversation started, Stephanie's I'll say presume, because you might find something else that just excites the living shit out of you between now and Scarefest. Because that's still a long way off, despite what the Facebook messages that I'm getting sound like. But in other words, they're like in a panic already. But that being said, we're talking about the varmint.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty much
Absolutely.
what you've honed in on.
That's what I'm obsessed with at the moment. Yeah, I'm working on a project with it, and it doesn't make sense. And it crosses over really nicely with some of the goblin lore and some of the current goblin sightings going on. So it's just really, really strange.
Now, a quick question. Is this something that you're able to, is this all pretty much face-to-face interviews? Are you able to Google this shit? I mean, how do you find out about things like
Googleable. So the varmint originally I found out about because my grandfather told me stories of when the first one was killed. So that's sort of where I got those original stories from. But the later ones, my grandmother had copied some of the newspaper articles about them at the time. And then I went looking at the local newspaper in their online archives, and none of the varmint stories are there. They're all gone. Yeah. And you look at archives and they're not there. And I can find photographs that people have taken of the articles, and they're referenced in the articles that I have that I know are genuine. So it references back to an earlier article, and I was able to find that article. So I know that there is this trail of articles, and I know the people who should be writing them, and I know the area, and I know there's people not out there deep enough into this to be fabricating them. So I have some really interesting photographic evidence, but I have not laid my hands on the actual original documents, as they are not available through the newspaper who published them.
But you do have your grandmother's photocopies.
I do.
Oh,
So I have original.
I'd be standing in front of the newspaper editor's desk Monday morning.
Right?
And I would like to see the original copy of this, or the library. Go to the library and say, hey.
Exactly. And when you look through the microfiche, I have not been able to find these yet. I have not gone through the entirety of them, but I have not been able to find the documents I would need to find to talk about the varmint.
Scrubbed.
In the original microfiche.
It was scrubbed by the government, I have no doubt.
And we're back to Men in Black.
I mean, there's an argument. It's the Men in Black, absolutely.
See? It all works together. Okay, everybody, this has been Scarefest TV, and I want to say, Stephanie, you have lived up to my expectations yet again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great fun.
And everybody, this year, if we're of course, everyone's heard, we've got that second floor. We've got a little more room on it now because we moved stuff to the first floor. So now we can expand our seminars, hopefully, unless Adrian pulls something else out of her and she keeps taking rooms. What I'm saying is, we will have seminars. Look Stephanie up. It's worth time away from standing in line to get somebody's autograph. Don't hear this incredible, smart person. I used person that time.
You did.
Hear her give her speech, and she always dresses to the nines. That's probably the second best part of it. So thank you once again, Chad. Good to have you back.
Thank you. Good to be
back. This
back.
has been Scarefest TV.